you're super precise today, but I'm happy you're here. At the same time, we are testing new software, so we'll see how it goes. I think we are going live right now already. So can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. Yes.
Very good. Well, if you hear some kind of noises, well, someone around me, some neighbors probably start drilling something. So it's some kind of construction. Everybody is happy to be out of lockdown, but it reminds me that today's topic is mastery and the road to mastery. And I remember someone said the road to success or mastery, it's always under construction. So as a result, it's kind of relevant. I also feel like today everything is drilling, around me. So we are talking about mastery and the road to the mastery today.
I love that. That's great. So, where do you want to begin, Alex?
Well, this is a life story. So yeah, I just gonna probably jump because I believe we all influenced with experiences. We're going through lots of things, and not often we realize how some particular event, have like a powerful impact. And unless we ask the question or we ask question ourselves. So I was asking question to myself, okay, what kind of situations or experiences in my life right now I perceive it as kind of the most influential. And so that's one of the kind of story came up, and it is relevant to what does it mean to be successful and what is real mastery. I believe I formed some kind of meaning around that topic a lot because of those events and stories, which I would like to share.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
So, yeah, I'm gonna just jump straight into the. It was the time, the year. I'm not even waiting for your questions. I'm just gonna go, by myself. So, I think it's 1985, 84, 5, 86. I was in the last years of university in my nuclear physics department, and I at that time I was training a lot. I played lots of sports, and there was a special place in our like a small town students kind of place near to university, and we call it manege. I mean, actually, it's just a stadium which is kind of covered. So when there is a bad weather, actually train there, not on the open air, but under the roof. It's a smaller kind of running circle, not 400 meters as we had outside, but a little bit kind of, I think 150 or something, like a smaller circle. And when the weather was not as good, I was actually going there and I was running regular and did some other exercise and fitness practically every day. So I started to notice that every time when I come, I noticed that there is a girl there. I mean, and she's training. And I was curious because I was going into almost like in a random times, in the random days, and she's there all the time. And the way she trained is completely different. Because usually you come, you have 1.5 hours, 2 hours, you warm up, you just kind of run, and then do it's like a simple routine, everybody does it, and she did completely different things, and I will explain what it is. Sometimes I see her going super slow. It's like almost like I'm walking extremely slow, or like over that, that kind of round, the running circle. Or sometimes there was she was working with a trainer, and sometimes I saw the trainer actually used some kind of like a rubber ropes. So they actually they put ropes over her, and the guy, the trainer, was holding ropes behind her, and she was accelerating with the full power, kind of trying to run, away from him. But because it's huge, powerful, ropes were holding her. It's almost like a riding the horse, which you are holding. And so they did this kind of exercise, and then I saw her running the whole round, like the whole circle, with a parachute behind. So like a literally parachute, small kind of thing, and she was running extremely kind of in a powerful way. So later, I learned about her, and she was like a multiple-time Olympic gold medal in the 70 and 100 meters. Her name is actually Irina Privalova. I mean, you could Google it. It's like a very famous. I didn't know at that time, but what I was really super kind of fascinated with the way she trained. And one of the things which also kind of, I was not in shock, but I was like, wow, this is really crazy. I mean, I saw one day she took her shoes off and she started to train every toe. I mean, like I saw that she's training, every toe on her feet separately. I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is crazy. I never seen anything like this. So later in my life, I realized many things. I explained many, but when I saw it for the first time, I was like, wow, that's an unusual way of kind of approaching things. I mean, So that's pretty much that kind of story of like a watching that girl. I mean, she's like girl because I think she's 20, I don't know, 21, 22. It's like, she was still in university and training. And the way she does it, how he does it, what kind of attitude. Later, when I was reading already books about psychology or sports psychology, when I got familiar with the so-called deliberate practice, I kind of I connected the dots. I mean, why she was training this way. But it's like the level of fascination which those training kind of impacted me. I think I started to kind of realize lots of different aspects of how real mastery supposed to be achieved. So this is kind of briefly the story. I call it in my mind. I call it the girl in the manege, because So I like several months. I was kind of during winter time. I was training there, and I saw her every single time when I was there. So it seems like she was practically living in that training place. I mean, she trained almost like a crazy. I mean, like a professional. Even though at that time in Soviet Union, we officially didn't have professionals. I think it was kind of amateur sport, and we didn't have that kind of. No one paid, the 100 meters runners. I mean, it's like it was her attitude was completely right now. Kind of, I can explain, completely professional. So that's pretty much my story.
It's fascinating. The one thing that I think, and thank you for sharing it, Alex, I think it's so fascinating as we have continued these talks, how we are able to go back into those points in time and really recall very specific, capture those pictures and those moments that are so fascinating to me. And even to the point when you shared, and I thought this was so interesting about her toes, right? How she was exercising her toes or whatever she was doing. You said training her toes, but to think that we are able to go back to these moments and somehow recall and then bring them back into this space now. And I guess what I'm curious about is, how did that really help inform what you consider mastery to be? I mean, when you talk about mastery, how did that speak to your understanding around mastery right now?
Precisely. I mean, because my mind trained as a former scientist, my mind trained to create some kind of models or structure. So when I was watching her train that particular way, well, I was first with curiosity and surprise, but then I started to put my mind kind of started to put those things together. First of all, what I realized, and actually it's contributed into my understanding what mastery is. First of all, what I realized that you need to really, really focus all your energy on one particular thing if you really would like to advance. I mean, every time I go in the morning, I go sometimes afternoon, I go sometimes in the evening. She is there. This is, well, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, for me, it's like, okay, she is dedicated and she is focusing. It's her life, literally. So this is the first conclusion. My mind kind of made some kind of tick, like, So if you really want to be advanced, you need to spend time, and actually you need to focus. And by focus, I don't just by focus, I mean to say no other things, because we are going for beer, we are partying, we are playing football, we do lots of stuff. She is there training. I mean, this is very impressive, and that was my first kind of conclusion that, okay, if I really would like to advance and get mastery in some particular kind of area, I need to understand that you are going to say no other things, and you're going to focus your energy and time around at least that particular direction. This is one conclusion, simple. Second conclusion, she was not just training as ordinary people do. She was, how to say it, right now there is a term deliberate practice, meaning you are pushing yourself to some kind of extremes. You are not doing things the way you usually do. You are all the time pushing. I'm going to give you an example. When I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, I come across the book Talent Code. I forgot the name. Daniel Cole, I think. Yeah, I don't remember the author. But the point is that he was actually introducing that kind of deliberate practice concept. And I recognized that immediately, because he said, well, if you want to practice in such a way that you are advance much deeper and faster than ordinary people and ordinary practice, you need to do deliberate practice. And example is like this. For example, Brazilian football guys, football players, they're not playing as everyone does on a normal grass field. They are training on the sand. Can you believe? I mean, the sand creates, if you want to accelerate, I don't know, played football in the sand. Do you know what happens when you try to accelerate or make a fast kind of run? You need to run like 20 meters, because your legs are actually sinking in. You really cannot. I mean, you need to make so much more effort in order to do the same distance than normally you would do if you would be in a normal condition. Meaning you are training in an extreme, harsher condition. Imagine those Brazilian players are playing all year in the sand. And by the way, when the ball hitting the sand, it's bouncing back a little bit unpredictable as well. So it's more difficult actually to handle the ball, because it's not even surface. So imagine all year you are training on the sand where the ball is bouncing unpredictably, and then when you go to competition, you go to the normal field. Wow, you are the god. You're accelerating. I don't know. That you're almost like a superhuman, because when you accelerate on a normal ground after the sand, it's like no one will compete with you, because your legs are used to. That's what deliberate practice is. So do you remember I mentioned she was running with a parachute or with those ropes? I mean, she was trying to accelerate, not just like 100 meters guys do, but with resistance, when it's much more harder. And so that's what deliberate practice is. I mean, it's right now maybe people are more aware of that practice, but I come across, I don't know, I was also like 19 years old. The first time I saw the whole concept, actually there was no concept. I just saw how people do it, and I was fascinated with the whole idea. So she was making her training much harder than it's supposed to be. And then, so my conclusion is like, actually, I shouldn't just, if I play guitar, I shouldn't just play as normal do. I could try to play 5 times faster, or maybe I could try to play. So that's what deliberate practice is. That's how you really advance, like a fast and much deeper than normal practice would allow you. So that's the second kind of conclusion which I come across. And when you would like to know how to your road to mastery and would like to really advance, you need to challenge yourself all the time, not being comfortable to do the same thing. Just do things in a more restricted way. Do you remember that violinist, kind of Paganini, very famous story, when the church kind of made his strings on the violin, kind of, they cut it a little bit. And when he started playing the concert, one string, boom, got broken. He was continued to play as if nothing happened. And then second string, boom, and he was continued to play. Can you believe that if you would be a normal musician and you suddenly lost 2 strings? So obviously that was a really level of mastery, because 1 string, 2 string he lost, nothing changed. He was continued to play. I mean, that's what mastery is, in my understanding. It's very extreme performance. So this is my second conclusion. And the third one is about, isolating elements. So toes, obviously, they get to such a level of details. They use all the elements in the system. So now it comes to when you make a push, okay, all muscles already trained, the calves trained, toes also participating in the push when the 100 meters guys are starting. Yeah, maybe their contribution may be 1%. But if you're professionals and you are reaching for real mastery, that percent can be the difference between first place and 7th. So, well, I mean, just by watching her, my understanding of what mastery is, because right now, for example, we are talking about coaching skills, and we are like, okay, we are practicing. How we practice? We have sessions, and we just work with I'm asking myself, what is the element precisely of coaching skill I will be trained during this session? I mean, what are my toes? Because if I'm not training any particular element and I'm not consciously aware that I'm training this one, probably, maybe I'm kind of okay. I'm training like amateurs do. I mean, it's good, but it's not good enough when we are talking about really, really top performance, like real mastery. I don't know if it makes sense what those conclusions I have after that story.
It's amazing and it's fascinating. This idea, as you said, it's about the focus. It's being deliberate. this kind of extreme approach towards mastery, and as you said, isolating those elements. And the last thing you said, which I think is really powerful, is this idea of being consciously aware. You can go out and work out and go through that rhythm, right? But I'm curious, when you say consciously aware, what does that really mean to you in the context of what we've been talking about?
Well, because I really believe that when you are reaching mastery, you're supposed to be aware of really, really small details. And in order to improve them, you need to focus just on that particular, like example. Okay, I'm running, everybody runs, in the morning jogging. But every time when I run, I decided, okay, this time I will be focusing on the relaxation of my shoulders. And feel how that relaxation of shoulders allow me to breathe fully. So I'm combining that relaxation of upper part of my body with the breathing, and I'm focusing on that part only, because that if I really would like to to make sure that that element is in place and really improving, I need to dedicate my full attention to that. Some other time I'm actually paying attention to my heart rate. So, for example, I'm really do everything what I can in order to my heart rate not to break out to some particular level. So again, it's a relaxation, but a little bit more like a abdominal kind of type of breathing. So I'm focusing on that all my run, like 1.5 hours. I'm focusing on just that particular element. So there was a psychological research. I think in that book, Talent Code, there was a actually description of one of the psychological researches, which the psychologists decided to investigate how amateurs and how professionals are perceiving the same task. So they took 300 people. They all volleyball players, and the psychologists asked them to describe how they serve the ball. You know that before the game starts, you just throw the ball and just hit it. Yeah. So that's serving. Yeah. And 300 people, they all different levels. Some of them are Olympic champions. Some of them are just playing, with simple people like me and maybe you, if you are not professionals. So, and what they did, they asked to describe in written how they serve the ball, what kind of elements, and then they analyzed. Well, amateurs describing the whole serve as 2 points. With my left arm throwing the ball in the air, with my right I'm hitting that. So done. Well, when psychologists come across the description of 23, that was the description of Olympic champions of volleyball describing how they serve the ball.
Alex, if you could repeat that, you got kind of caught we had a little glitch. So could you also repeat again how the professionals described hitting the ball? Because you got lost.
Sorry. The professionals they give description of 23 points how they serve the ball. So psychologists were able, just by description, just by complexity and detailization of the process, clearly distinguish professional top level from amateurs. And so the top professional volleyball players, they have 20, I don't know, something. So they describe everything, how they approach the line, how they bend it forward, how they relax shoulders, how they bend a little bit knees, it's like there are so many precise details which they do consciously. They paint every single element separately in order to have that, amazing, super consistent, powerful, precise serve of the ball. So that's my understanding what elements are and why do we really need to go for the details and why we need to pay, like a conscious attention to the training one particular element, not just kind of, in general. I'm playing volleyball, I'm practicing. Okay, good for you. You could drive a car, 100,000, I think some famous coach said that you could drive a car 100,000 kilometers per year. It's not gonna make you the driver of Formula One. I mean, it's not about how long maybe you do that. It's about digging into it's about attitude. It's about deliberate practice. It's about defining elements. It's about all other things. That's what makes mastery mastery. I'm not saying this is the ultimate truth. I'm just saying that those conclusions I made personally, when I just kind of reflect on those stories, it's like that's how they influenced my understanding. And I'm not saying that my understanding is the only one or the right one, but for me, at least where I am now, my truth, I believe the mastery kind of, having all those elements which I somehow I identified, during those stories. Did they answer your question, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, we've used the examples of, the athletes and even maybe coaching, but I'm curious just for kind of the lay public, if you were to think about just every day, the way that we approach things every day, there are things that we approach during our day that are important, and then there are some that are routine, right? But how to apply this to kind of our everyday existence. You know what I mean? It's maybe it's about work or whatever, but I'm just curious how we might be able to translate this too into kind of the real life situation. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for question, because I in my mind I already connected. I believe that there is I would say very kind of, I would say almost bridge between mastery and spiritual advances. I mean, strangely, in Chinese culture, they even have some kind of like a notion, like a belief that in every I would say profession, the masters almost like the mastery is meeting, like the master of China, like a tea ceremony, is pretty much could be a master of martial arts, because somehow those masteries, they're kind of coming together. It's almost like you could reach the peak of the mountain from different roads. You could choose different professions, but when you get to the top, masters, they all understanding the same thing. I mean, that's what unites them. So I don't know if it makes sense. So for example, in order to be aware what you do and make everything very conscious, I mean, if you start practicing on a daily basis, I think it's a road to a very high level of spirituality, because you will start training awareness. So like sport athletes, they make themselves extremely aware, how they perform like a certain particular sport activity. But if we extend it on everything in our life, like for example, how I wash my dishes, I could be totally present and aware of my breathing and how I do that, and pay attention. Some say to his pupil. I mean, the student was asking, well, you are washing dishes, and me too washing dishes. dishes. What is the difference? You're washing dishes and you're practicing Zen, and I'm washing dishes. I'm not practicing anything. And the master said, well, when I am washing dishes, I am just washing dishes. When you wash dishes, you do hundreds of other things. And that's already spiritual stuff. What I mean is that when the Zen master is washing dishes, he's totally present. He's right there. He's not thinking about exam tomorrow or some conflict he had during. No, he's washing dishes. He's totally aware. I mean, for me, that's precisely what those top athletes do when they, when they train, when they're trying to be aware of every single aspect. They are present. I mean, that's why I think, if you extend that, no mastery to other areas of your life, you could take shower in a way of mastery, or wash dishes, or eat, with a full presence, paying attention to how you chew, how you sit. Even if you think, you pay attention what you think about. I mean, this is already totally spiritual stuff, but I believe it's some kind of very close to what I, described as a road to mastery for some interesting reason, but they're kind of together, very close.
I thank you, and I follow that completely. I mean, the word that comes up that is often used now is this idea of being mindful, and it's that mindfulness. It's really about focusing on whatever thing is happening at that time. Like you said, washing dishes, or taking a shower. It's the water that's hitting your body. It's maybe the smell of the soap that you're using. It's the temperature of the water, but it's all around that act that is happening in that very moment. It's not, oh, I have to work on this report, or I have to go send this email, or it's fully being in that moment. And so much of that nowadays they talk about mindfulness, and that's what was coming up for me whenever you were talking about that. But
absolutely, but it's easy to maybe to say, but it does require lots of practice. That mindfulness or full presence, because it's naturally we are concerned with some things, but in NLP we call it pay attention to like a sensory input or sensory experiences. They're not distorted with the filtering or concerns, or you just feel where you are, what you do, and pay attention to present moment. And this is actually liberates you from lots of concerns and troubles and so on, because if you are where you are, there are no concerns here. Very rarely you actually find concerns where you are. That's a phenomenal aspect of those concerns, because they are in the mind, a lot of them. They're imaginary. Like every time when you are realize, okay, I'm here, where are concerns? Well, they're not here. They are in some, I don't know, imaginary situations or scenarios, or who knows where. Where you are, there are no concerns. Just air, just certain temperature, there is a clothes, you feel it, and that's it. That's a sensory, it's like our sensory experiences. And it's pretty kind of amazing that how mind can be a powerful thing, and how mind can be a troublesome thing, which people kind of experience around the world a lot. Well, this is pretty much my story. I hope some people maybe pick up something for them. Maybe some pieces will resonate with them, and at least they could think about those aspects. I'm sure everyone has their own understanding what mastery is, and how we can use it in our everyday life. Because it's not easy, because in order to be present, you need to have lots of energy. That's why we our body is trying to automate everything because it's like requires zero energy. It's when we are on autopilot, we practically, running on a low energy kind of aspects, and as a result, we are practically sleeping. We are on an autopilot, and that's some spiritual people say that, well, the God is knocking into our door practically every second. Unfortunately, rarely anyone's home.
I love that.
I mean, we are somewhere. We are concerned. We are thinking about future, past. We are just not here. That's where the God is knocking, but nobody's home.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's so true. And I want to thank you because I've just taken away so much. And again, a different perspective on mastery. But even thinking about, really quickly, just some of the things you talked about, like this idea of somewhat of that resistance that, when you're, you use the example of working out in the sand or the parachute or someone pulling, and they're trying to run in that resistance, because then when you actually go to do this and you go to perform, it's easier, you're quicker, it's faster.
Yes. Yes. Again, yes.
Yeah. And this idea of being very deliberate, which then kind of transcends to this idea that we have to be fully aware and be in that moment and be in that mindful space. I think it was Ram Dass. He said, be here now, or something to that effect. And there is kind of a spiritual context to that, but there's truth. Yeah. There's truth, because then we don't get distracted. And I think that's the challenge for a lot of people, including myself. I get caught up in the little stories and the distractions that are around me. And ultimately, I'm not mastering what I need to do. I'm not mastering some of those things that I really want to develop and grow, because I've got myself in different places. So this is very, very powerful.
Oh,
and again, to bring
everybody does, absolutely.
Yeah, but to bring your stories, and like I said at the beginning, how powerful it is to go back. This has been kind of the theme too in some of these conversations, is to be able to recall and learn and reflect, and see what we've picked up from those experiences and how they've informed who we are now. It's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
it is incredible, because if you would ask me 20 years ago about the same story, probably I would tell you maybe half. The book of about deliberate practice haven't published yet. There are certain you are enriching the understanding and meaning those events over time, and it become like, oh, that make really, really deep sense now. But at that time, I was just fascinated. I was just, wow, that's crazy what she does. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I felt that there is something there, but I wouldn't be able to, elaborate in such a, kind of more or less precise way as I'm able now.
Yeah.
So that's what time does and experience.
Yeah.
John, thank you very much. I'm aware of time, and I really appreciate your questions. I think it's very nice when when I'm working with practically almost like a coaching session, but a little bit with a little bit more talking me as a client. But nevertheless, your questions helped me a lot, and I hope I'm looking forward to connecting you with our next conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great one.
Bye bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Yep. You too. Thank you.